Afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our first quarterly webinar of the year. So my name is Jay McClelland. I am Technical Manager with Innova, and joining me today, we've got Phil Dunn, our Engineering Manager, Jen Gillen, our Sales and Marketing Manager, and we've also got Bruce Ripley, our COO. So today, I'm going to be running through the features that have been released over the last 3 months. We'll be taking a look at some well seeker features, and we will finish off with the operations dashboard in Innova VANTAGE. So first thing to say is that this is going to be recorded and it will be available at some point later on today or tomorrow. The other thing is, if we've got any time at the end, I will answer any questions that you have. So please feel free to put some questions in the question and answer section. I'll answer what I can, but if any of the questions I don't get to, we will answer them. We will just answer them over the next couple of days. So let me just move across to well seeker. So the first thing that I want to speak about today would be the error ellipse view in the 3D plot. So we're in a survey. I'm going to open up my 3D plot. I'm going to double click on it to open up the chart properties and display the error ellipses in the error ellipse section. Now, if I zoom on these, they will look a little bit different from what you're used to seeing. You can see that instead of being a single ellipse, we now have 2 crossed ellipses. So one is the high side lateral ellipse, the other is the lateral along hole ellipse. So this now better represents the errors in all directions. We can take this on a step further by drawing the ellipsoids. So we can see we now have a better 3-dimensional representation of our ellipses. And the final thing that we can do in here is we can draw this as a cone. So what this does is it takes all of the ellipses and puts them all together so we can see this cone from surface down to TD. So this is just an additional way for us to now visualize these errors that are associated with our selected wellbores. While we're in here, the next thing I want to introduce would be depleted zones. So we've added the ability to put depleted zones on actual wells. You can't do this on plans, but on an actual well, if you right click and select properties at your actual wellbore level, the depleted zones section is down the bottom right. And here we can stick our up, down, we can stick our width. So this is to the left and the right. So this would be 400 wide. And the start depth, and this is the depth that we will start to visualize this depleted zone on the 3D plot. And then from the 3D plot, again, we double click to access the chart properties, and in the 3D chart section down here, we've got our depleted zones. You can choose your color. Blue is the default, and we can see now that we've got this nice visualization of our depleted zone. If I put some offset wells onto here. If any of your offset wells have depleted zones, they will also be displayed. And the big thing to point out here is anywhere where these zones interact, where they touch each other or where they cross, will be highlighted in red. So you can see here, it's very quick and easy to spot places where our depleted zones are crossing and touching each other.
No worries.
Don't know what happened there. Anyway, so back to where we left off. The reason that this has been put in is because our real-time anti-collision dialogue, while very useful and handy, sometimes gets in the way when you are switching between tabs. So we were asked if there was any way that we could put it somewhere where it would not do that. So because we have it associated with the 3D plot, it stays within the confines of this. You can put it somewhere up out the way, and it means that as you're moving around about, it doesn't get in the way and cause a problem. So that's a pretty useful thing to have. The next thing that I want to talk about would be lease lines, and specifically what we want to talk about here would be lease line alerts. So if we look at this example, we've got 2 lease lines. We have a green lease line and we have got a pink lease line. And we've got our blue principal plan, and we have got our red actual well, which forms our surveys. Now, with our real-time anti-collision, we can set up an alert to say, in our case, if we get within 100 foot of our lease line, we want to know about it. And this can be set up in the real-time anti-collision. It can also be set up to send us emails, alerts, through Innova VANTAGE. Now, this is brilliant and it works really well, but where it can have its downside would be the fact that it is sometimes possible for us to cross a lease line legitimately without it being a problem. So, for example, here, the principal plan crosses this green lease line here, and it crosses it here. So the reality is that as we get within 100 foot of this, I don't really want an email alert to tell me about that, because if I keep getting alerts about this, they don't have as much meaning as about crossing lease lines that have got, that are actually a legitimate problem. So what we've done is we've put some logic in here where we look at the point at which the principal plan crosses the lease line and we say, okay, we are okay to cross this lease line because our signed off plan crosses the lease line at this point. So from here, we take that point and we draw a 200 foot rectangle square around about that point. And as our actual well enters and gets within that square, as it gets close to our lease line, it will still flag and it will say that we're less than 100 feet, but it will say that it's okay to cross. And most importantly, it won't push out an email alert. Now, it will always push out an alert for this pink one because the pink one, it doesn't cross it anywhere. But over here, as we get closer and as we come further away, this won't ping an alert. Now, where it becomes a bit tricky would be a scenario like this one down here, where we are crossing and we are legitimately crossing this vertical portion of the lease line, but the horizontal portion, we are not. So we still want the flag for here. So what we've done is we've added in some more logic that specifically relates to the vector of the line that you're crossing. So while this lease line is made up of several different lines with different vectors, we're saying that, okay, we're drawing our square. As we approach here, the closest point on the lease line will be somewhere on this vertical portion, and that's going to be okay to cross. As we cross over and we start heading away, at some point we will ping over to the closest point being on this horizontal portion. When it does ping down onto there, it will flag. And the reason it will flag is because the vector for this portion of the lease line is different from this one. And I can show you this in a kind of real-time scenario. Let's put on our real-time anti-collision. And if I now move up here, we can see that our green lease line is only 40 foot, we're only 40 foot away from it, and it's telling us that it's okay to cross. And that's because at the moment, the closest point on this lease line is somewhere along here. We are flagging for the pink lease line though, which is expected. If I now move down, I'm getting closer and closer. We're still okay to cross. And now all of a sudden we are not okay because we can see that the point that we are closest is going to be this portion of the lease line. Now, this means that your alerts that you're going to be getting are going to be more meaningful for the proximity of the lease lines that you're at. It factors in where the actual well crosses any given lease line. And of course, in things like the curve, etc., or when you're getting close to a point of interest, you are constantly going to be projecting ahead. So this is going to give you a heads up well in advance. Okay, now I'm going to ping back across to my slide deck because I've got a few that I want to run through, which I'll class as quick fire features. So the first one is our multi-nudge. Now, this was added just a couple of days ago based on feedback from a client. So a lot of directional drillers still like to enter measure depth, inclination, and azimuth as their projection. And because we didn't have this in part of our projection method in multi-nudge, they were actually entering it in the survey grid, which is fine and it can be done, but it could potentially be mistaken for a survey. In this particular instance, this now allows the directional driller to put this into the multi-nudge and it will properly, flag up as a survey. So quite useful for the directional drillers. We now have two new columns in our survey grid called planned inclination and planned azimuth. We've always been able to find out for each of our survey points what the closest point on the principal plan was and how far up and down we were to that point. This is now also telling us the inclination and the azimuth on the plan at that point. This can be really useful for things like when you're building the curve, you may be a couple of feet away from the line, but this might highlight that you're 5 or 10 degrees out in inclination. So this just puts the information right in front of you without having to go to the plan and interpolate to find out. In the inventory, we've added the ability to colour lines for if any tools are dirty. So drilling, circulating hours, total hours, any hours on a tool, and it will flag as being dirty. In the last quarterly webinar, Phil introduced our spell checker, and one of the comments was, would it be possible to have this in Spanish? So we listened, and that is something that has now been implemented. The automated EDR data acquisition. So now, by default, the checkbox is checked when EDR data is received on the rig. It's now automatically pushed back to the server. So the DD doesn't need to check a box anymore. It's already checked. So that automatically goes back to the server. We automatically detect that we're receiving that and we start recording it. If the data flatlines, or if there is no, if there's no data coming in, it will automatically stop. It will automatically start again when we start to receive meaningful data. And once the well's finished and it's auto-stopped, if it's been auto-stopped for up to 2 months, it will auto-archive as well. So the whole process is now automated. And as an office user, you don't need to be relying on going in and doing anything here to make this work. The final thing I want to mention within WellSeeker is some admin additions that we've just made a few weeks ago. Any of our corporate clients who have a server database and have lots of field licenses will know if you receive a new magnetic model, if you want to push a new report template or unit sets out to all of your field engineers or anybody using WellSeeker, historically, you would have to send an email and rely on somebody doing what you've asked them to do and putting things in the right place. This feature now allows you to just add what you need to add onto the server, and the next time anybody with a valid license for your company opens up WellSeeker, it will automatically pull this information down for them. They don't even need to click a button. It just pulls it down for them and they are good to go. So this is going to be a real time saver for anybody that has to deal with anything like that across your entire company. Right. The next thing that I want to look at is our new operations dashboards. So these dashboards are within VANTAGE and they are replacing what was our well list, and these would be your landing page now. Now, we have always had great data within our server databases based on the fact that you're recording it at source, you're pushing it back from the field. What we wanted to do now was we wanted to have a place within VANTAGE that you could find this data without having to really search for it. We wanted it front and center, and that's why we looked at putting these in place. So the wells dashboard directly replaces the wells list. You can do everything in here that you could do before. You've got your interactive map, you've got your AG grid, we can filter from here, we can search. We've added in some really nice little pins, so you can pin things that you commonly search for, and it just means you don't have to do anything in the AG grid. You can do them all up here. We've also got our favorites up here that we can filter for, along with BHA and hole, active widths, incidents, the curve. Historically, to select favorites, you would have to go up here and select your favorite. Now we can also select it just by clicking on this little star here. We can also filter the information in here for the last 7 days. So it looks at the end date here, and it'll just give you everything that's been pushed in the last 7 days, 60 days, or year. And we can also, over on the left-hand side, access all the usual information that we were, along with our import capabilities and adding a well. Coming on to our rigs dashboard, this will show us a single line for each of our active rigs. Now, again, we don't have to filter this, we don't have to search front and center, just click on rigs and it shows them for you. If you have multiple active wells on a particular rig, you will have a little orange circle down the bottom right-hand side with a number, and that determines the number of active rigs that are in addition to this one. So you could go and take a little look at this particular well and probably look at changing the status, because ideally you only want one active well for any particular rig. And if you have multiple active wells, it will look at the most recent end date for any particular one, and that is the one that will be here. The rest will be detailed here. Moving on to our operations dashboard. This is really the big one. This is where all of your operational data is going to be in one place. We're going to have a card in here for each of our active rigs, and the way that we will view these in the order is based on what we've got in here and also the order that we've got them in here. Now that is by default, but we can come across here and we can group our cards by operator, by county, by state, by phase, BHA in the whole, favourites, assembly type. This gives you the ability to take those cards and put things that you want to compare against each other in here. If you've got 60 active rigs running and you're only interested in a few of them, you don't have to look at all of these. Again, we can very quickly and easily filter this down based on the filters that we've got going on here. Favourites, active wits, incidents, really good ones. So if you've got lots of rigs running, this is going to give you your incidents, and the curve as well. Now, depending on the size of your screen, you can display multiple of these cards in one place. And if we actually look at the cards themselves, we start off with the rig name along the top. Then we've got the well, operator, job, county. When was the last time that the data was updated for this well? On the right-hand side, if we've got a BHA in the whole, it will tell us the BHA, and the phase tells us the rig state if we're receiving WITS data. Hole depth and bit depth will update based on your WITS data, but in addition to that, if you don't have WITS data coming in, it just takes it from the daily reports. Distance to TD looks at your current depth versus the TD of your principal plan, so very quick and easy to see how much further you've got to go. And then down the bottom here, we've got lots of nice tabs that we can move through. Now, one of the big things for me on this is that when you're in here, you're not navigating between pages. You're flicking here between tabs, which means that they load very quickly to get what you need, and you're not having to search all over the place. So I'll go through what we've got here. So these tabs can all be selected individually on any particular card, or we have the ability to globally change these from this view menu here. So in our summary tab, we've got our depth versus days. We can display the whole, the BHA. We can display the phases on here. We've got an anti-collision overview. So this just gives you the top level anti-collision. We have got a tab that details it in much more detail. 24-hour summary and look ahead. If we're receiving WITS data, it's going to show us our gauges. Now these gauges update, and it tells us here when the last time they updated was. If you see here on any one of these gauges, we have got maximum values. Now, if you have filled in the data on your BHA, it will take the maximum values from there. So if you have got a 600 GPM limit for your motor, that is where it will be. At the moment, we're using the default, but if the data was in here, it would tell you where that limit is coming from. We've also got alerts. So you can see these cards have all got a red, they're outlined in red, and we've also got a little bell with a red symbol on the top. This is based on any alerts that you have got set up. They will either come here or you can have them emailed to you. Now, historically, alerts is something that only admins have been able to access, but if you go to your user profile at the top right, you can now, as a user, access your alerts. You can set any of these alerts up yourself. You can determine whether they go to the dashboard or the email and the frequency. So it's nice and easy to set all this up, and very quick and easy to see when anything is giving you an alert. If we go to our statistics, this is giving you drilling statistics for the last 24 hours, current phase, last BHA, the well, any cost that we've got in here. Anti-collision, this is basically just the same data in your anti-collision dashboard, but for this single well. If you are drilling the curve, in here there is also a landing point calculator where you can put a few pieces of information in here and it will calculate the dog leg to land. In the BHA, we've got motor data, sensor offsets, bit data, and your BHA information. Surveys, we're going to have the last 10 surveys, plus we've got some trend information plot down the bottom. Incidents, so any incidents that are recorded within your BHAs, unplanned trips, critical failures, motor failures, MWD failures, it's going to give you the information in here about the comments. If you want to dial in on this to find out some more information, we've got our quick links down the bottom where we can select the BHA, anti-collision, EDR, and that just takes you to those pages under the well view. So you don't need to now go to wells, find your well, click on it, navigate to it. You can get to it from these quick links here. BHA statistics, so again, just giving us some, basic information, slide annotation, footage, dates in and out, etc. We've got our EDR, so this is just a mini EDR page compared to what we've got underneath the well view. Gives you the same information, updates in real time. We can still move and view it. And if we want to hit the auto scroll, it pushes us back to the bottom and lets us see the WITS data as it comes in. Now, these next 3 tabs that you can see here, these were not there a week ago, and these have been entered as a result of feedback from clients that we've spoken to. The personnel tab gives us the personnel data front and center based on the information that's been filled in the DDR. So if you need to contact the rig, you don't need to go looking in your emails anymore to try and find the signatures of who's there. If they're filling in the DDRs properly, this information's here and you can get what you need and give them a phone. We've got our inventory, so down here we can see our motors and our MWDs, but we've also got everything else in here, and we can expand it or collapse it as per our requirements. And the last one that we've got in here is notes. So these are rig notes that are associated with particular rig, and we've got space for the DD coordinators, MWD coordinators, well planners, general rig requirements, and just general notes. So again, a useful place that if there's anything in particular, you can put it in here and then anybody can go in and can see the notes that are relevant to them. The last thing to note here would be the performance tab or the performance dashboard. Now, this is the same as our data insights. And the big difference here, or the main thing here is it's giving you the same thing for all of your active wells. So again, we're not having to go in here. We're not having to filter, select the wells in question. We hit performance and straight away we can build whatever we want in here based on the available KPIs. So we can have up to 8. It's very user definable. We can change the size, change the position. Once it's in here, we can also choose from a drop-down menu for each one individually. And we can see things like drillers comparison, tower comparison, rig rankings, tortuosity, cost per well, depth versus day. So again, you've got all of the information regarding your active wells front and center in the one place without you having to do any work to find it. Okay, that is all the things that I have time to cover. And I do apologise for losing internet connection there. Don't know what happened. I've got less time than I was hoping for questions. But as I mentioned, any questions that I don't get answered now, we will answer them and we will get back to you all. So let me take a quick look and see if I can find some questions. So yes, so here's a question from Nicholas. When the 2-month-old EDR data gets archived, will we still access it somewhere? Absolutely. So when it's archived, you can basically just go in. There's an option within the data acquisition where you can grab it and pull it back in so that you have it. So it just means that if you've got hundreds and hundreds of wells that have got EDR data associated with them, they're not all loaded up on there. You grab them and bring them in as and when you need them. So absolutely, you can still grab a hold of that. Okay, Vantage. So this is from John. Vantage dashboard, operations, rig card, quick links. Is there a right-click option to open the selected module in a new tab? Not at the moment. That is potentially something we could look at, John, but at the moment, no, the right-click will not open that in a new tab. It basically takes you straight to, it just takes you straight to that point. If you want to, you can hit the backup. I guess that one of the great things about it is that when you go back to your dashboard, it's not like you've got to reset it up again. It's not like you go in and you're like, oh, I've lost all my settings. Everything that's in there is exactly the way that you left it. Even if you close, your web browser down and log back in again, it's the same. So moving away and moving back doesn't really cause you much issues just because of the way that it's been set up. Hold on, let me see. Can you share the recording after? Yeah, absolutely. The recording will be shared. So what is the quickest way to download or copy survey data? So you can export your survey data directly from the survey page. And from there, you can export that as an Excel document, which is probably the easiest way for you to do that. I'm running out of time. Let me see if I can find one more question to answer. Can we share the presentation? Yep. So, like I said, we can share the presentation. We can share the recording as well. Right. I have run out of time. As I mentioned, recording will be available from tomorrow. Please provide your feedback on our feedback page. We cannot promise to implement everything, but we can promise that we will look at anything that you do send through, and we will get back to you one way or another. Don't forget to register for the next quarterly webinar, and if you need to, feel free to contact us at any time via the following number or via support. Thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you on the next webinar.